Have you been to a hackathon yet?
Oh, I actually haven't, because every time I'm trying to come to one, it's always something conflicting on my schedule. But I would love to, man. I think to answer your question about the more African American people in the tech space is, me and my friends talk about this all the time. We always try to wonder, what is it? What's the disconnect? And, I'll be around my friends and I'll always be like, hey, man, I'm going to this tech conference and there's all these interesting companies and I don't know. It's like, it seems like that's not what they're interested into. So I had to think like, man, I just did another interview and they're asking me about women being in tech. There's not enough women. So it's like, it seems like this is a male-driven, and it's not necessarily an African-American thing. They'd rather go play basketball. They'd rather go hoop. And it's kind of messed up. Because today, me and my friend came and we found out that Trey Songz was here. And I was so surprised because his people were calling me and I was sitting in the front, so I didn't know that they were calling me, and I'm picking up the phone and I'm like, where are you at? They're like, we're at the front. And I go out there and Trey Songz is here with his whole manager and nobody realizes that Trey Songz is here. So it's a step in the right direction. Like, you know what I mean? And he's looking like, man, this is crazy. A lot of people don't even realize this exists in our world. So I just try to be a voice to let them know, like, hey, man, there's more out there. There's more out there than just basketball or being a rapper. There's companies that are changing the world, So I think it's more about lack of information than,
Well, I saw that you updated into your Twitter profile, via Foursquare check-in. What are some things you think people can do? I mean, like I was saying, so for Chris, coming to a hackathon, even though he's already working on a product, that's a great way to get visibility.
Getting involved in other organizations so that you can sort of cross-pollinate yourself. Also, just writing. Get out there, create something, blog, say something of value so that people start paying attention. That's another great way to get out there.
Yeah, have a voice.
So what have you seen today or yesterday that caught your eye? I know I was going to ask you that, Chamillionaire. But
For me, it's more about, I don't necessarily look at some of the bigger companies that everybody always talks about and gets excited about, because I'm more interested in early stage startup companies that aren't really there yet, because some of them will come and people don't really pay as much attention to them because they're not as big and they don't have as many big investors, but some of them will say some ideas that are pretty interesting. I've met a couple people and they gave me their cards, and when I leave I go check up on their stuff later, but sometimes you'll find a diamond in the rough, And I think that's better because they're easier to listen to than this company that has 100 people and all these advisors already on the board, and they really think they know it all already, you know what I mean? So if they do, that's wonderful, but I'm trying to find people that I can lend some kind of assistance to. And a lot of the early stage guys are really, they listen when you talk. You can see them looking you in your eyes, and it's like, I can help them get in touch with other people that can actually help them, and I want to be involved with people that I feel like I can help them be successful.
Is there a specific vertical that you're interested in terms of startups?
Nah, I try not to put a box on it, because if you do, sometimes something will fall in your lap and you don't even really think about it, and then all of a sudden you just to organically create a partnership that works, So I just try to listen to every person that comes up and talks to me. It's easy to somebody come up and talk to you and you can just be letting it go in one ear. I try to listen to what they're saying and really make up my mind of whether I think what they're doing is actually something that I could be, involved with. So, to answer your question, early stage startups and, I liked Ashton Kutcher being up there because a lot of people were tweeting saying, oh, I don't know, what is he doing up on the stage and stuff like that, but I think that's...
You said the same thing last year when you were here. You probably wonder why I'm up here. I remember that, and it was...
That's silly, because it's like, just because he's an entertainer, doesn't mean that he can't be involved in tech, and then he has a lot of resources. He has a lot of, it's not just about money. It's about, he mentioned having a background in marketing and selling movies and all this type of stuff. People have no idea how people that understand the people in the ecosystem that could actually make something that's tech related go. Those people are needed, the influencers, and it's not accident that he has that many Twitter followers and how he's disengaged in, tech. So I don't see why somebody would even let that come out of their mind. You might be able to learn something from them that you didn't know. And think about the App Store itself, in the iPhone. You go down and there's all these companies at the bottom that might have wonderful things, but some of them just didn't find that right way to get everybody to know about what they were doing.
To tell their story.
And that's why the influencers are needed, and that's why not just him, but more people like him should be here. So I don't think anybody should ever ask that question.
Well, let's switch gears and let's talk about how to get more people involved and engaged. So, Chris and Nnena, there is this thing called BlackFounders that you guys started at the beginning of the year, and At first I was like, I mean, personally, honestly, I just want to say, oh, it's probably just one of those other get-together organizations. But actually, I've been to several of your guys' events. It's been amazing.
We pretty much started BlackFounders because we recognized that we would come to a lot of events like this, and there'd be few black individuals. And to take it a step further, you'd meet someone who was black who was doing something great, and you're like, oh, do you know this person? Because they can help you. And they probably went through the exact same thing you went through when they first came to the Valley. We continually noticed that no one knew each other. There was no community, it was just really disconnected. And what I've noticed in a lot of the startup communities here is that they're really connected, like Israeli group, or like a lot of the incubators. There's the Brazilians. There's very strong ties of culture, and that's why we started BlackFounders. And Nnena, you can talk about what we're doing now.
So what we're essentially doing within BlackFounders is that we are trying to increase the number of successful technology startups that are black. They have black members in it, black run, black owned, fill in the blank. And what we've been doing so far is twice a month we've been having 2 events. One is to connect, because like Chris said, people need to connect in our ecosystem. They need to know who some of the black VCs are, who are some of the black entrepreneurs who have already been to the mountain and come back and can give you advice. Who are people who are on the same level as you, who are your peer group, who can support you, because you need people to support you. But then the other arm of what we do as well is that we also equip people. So for example, Chris is going to be leading a workshop on how to build a slide deck. For those of you who don't know how to build a slide deck, Chris is probably one of the best at it. We have things such as pitch parties. You don't want the first time that you pitch to an investor to be that moment. And the amazing thing is that we've had so much support from people who aren't even black, who've looked around Silicon Valley and said, you know what? Maybe the reason why Silicon Valley has remained stagnant and great products have not been created is because we do not have enough diversity and enough people bringing new ideas so we can challenge the status quo so that we can grow. They realize that if we don't have different perspectives, Silicon Valley at some point is not going to produce good products. All we're going to do is just make more and more games. We're not going to create anything that's going to change the world. So by bringing people with diverse viewpoints, when you bring people who are black, when you bring women, when you bring the Israelis, when you bring the Brazilians, we all come with a different perspective of the world and will create a really strong product. So that's what's also been really amazing. It's just all these people that have gathered around us. So that's BlackFounders in a nutshell.
And I know you guys even gave me the opportunity to moderate that panel with Vivek and Stephen Barry. A lot of good discussion. People who've been in the Valley, 20 plus years, as well as a lot of us newcomers.
At first, you'll probably get a lot of skepticism, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people that are like, oh, well, y'all are just trying to make a black community. And, if you really think about the ecosystem of the tech world, it's not, black, African Americans are the minority, you know what I mean? They're not a lot of us. So if you're aiming everything to be like, okay, we're going to go for black VCs, we're going to go, everything's going to be small. So from the outside looking in, somebody might not realize exactly what you're trying to do. But what you just said was really good, how you're saying more diversity from everybody brings different ideas to this ecosystem, which I think is the big point that you're trying to make, that, we bring different ideas here, and that's the reason why you need to bring outsiders. And even with me, just not just being an African American, just an entertainer. People, when you being an entertainer and you're coming in, they're looking at you like, oh, all you know is rap. Even the way people break it down in the bubble, they all know each other and they all have the same conversations and they go to tech conferences and meet the same people over and over. And then somebody like me comes and I don't know none of them and I'm like, nah, that's us. And then they're looking at me like, what? Why'd you say that? And then I give them a good reason and they're like, wow, we never looked at it that way. It's because you kept having conversations with your buddies all day. So I think that's definitely needed. That we need to bring some kind of disruption into this whole space.
Yes.
So that,
disrupt. I love it.
so that everybody will be like, okay, we're seeing our wrongs now, so I like what y'all are saying,
Hey, we got about half day left and then all day tomorrow. So do you have anything special planned for this evening or tomorrow?
Good question. I don't know, man.
All right, we won't put you on the spot. Thanks so much.